from Team Meltdown. The Frenchman. It's Stephano. And in the top right, it is under a barcode, but I know for a fact this is from his replay pack. It's from Mousesport. Is he still on Mousesports? I'm pretty sure. It's HeroMarine. The German Wunderkid. Alright, so let's break down ZVT. Most of the time, what you're going to be seeing is a split, and I can already tell you what HeroMarine's going to be doing, but for the Terran player, they're usually the one putting on pressure, unless the Zerg player does something crazy like a Nidus or a Baneling bust, which is pretty rare and usually reactionary. Okay, Alright, that's better. Okay. Okay, that's still ridiculous. There. Alright. But the Terran player, in a macro game, I guess, decides how to put on pressure. This is because Zerg is the race that, if left unchecked, can grow so quickly and so strong that it's almost impossible to beat them. Of course, a smart Terran player won't let them go unchecked. There's a lot of things you can do to pressure a Zerg player and force them. You might not kill any drones, but by attacking it all, you force them to make units and defenses. And if you do that, well, they don't make drones if they're making Zerglings. They don't make extra drones if they have to make more queens or spine crawlers. So the two different options are a quick medevac play, which HeroMarine is not opting for. Instead, he's gone for the quick gas, and he's probably going to be going for Hellions initially. What we're going to see, well, Reaper's coming out, but he got the gas first, which allows him to get his factory a little bit quicker, and allows him to put on some pressure with Hellions. Now, Hellions are good because they can control creep spread. They limit the effectiveness of Zerglings, so they kind of take away any options Zerg has for map control, and they just force out units in general. And they keep that drone count down, like I was mentioning. But we are in cross positions, which means the maximum distance between these players, neither knows that yet. Stephano's not going to have the option of getting his overlords in very early. He's not going to know there's an expansion yet. But at the same time, HeroMarine has a lot of distance to travel to put on any sort of pressure. Our second gas is quite quick here for HeroMarine as well. He's already got the factory on the way, the reactor behind. We'll see what Stephano's doing. The very classic 100 gas and then stop mining gas to get a little bit more in minerals. That's why you'll see pro players do this. Pretty much the only upgrade that gives you a lot of effectiveness early is that Zergling speed. Otherwise, Zerglings are pretty much useless. But you do want as many minerals as possible. You want to boost up your economy. You want to have queen production and additional hatcheries. Otherwise, you might not be able to compete with the pressure that Terran can put on as time goes on. Alright. So, what'll happen now is the Reaper will poke around, just get a glimpse of how many queens are there. Is there a third base? He already sees there is. And where he really wants to go with his Hellion. Stephano, at the same time, is trying to maximize his drone count and minimize any sort of losses while starting his creep spread. There's a couple different options for a Zerg player as well. Whether it's the very heavy unit style of Zerglings and Banelings, and then a lot of the time transitioning into Mutalisks, which is really larva heavy, but also can exploit a bad position or counterattack really easily against a Terran because they're very quick, right? They literally have wings. The other option is the more conservative but powerful Roaches and Ravagers. Roaches and Ravagers are less mobile, they're more expensive, and they take a lot of supply, but they really just stand against any army. They're very good defensively as well, but they're not as good as at attacking. They allow you to be more defensive and tech up and maybe go into Infestors for fungal growth to combine and make sure you hit those corrosive biles, and then eventually go into Hive Tech. And Hive Tech, especially if done quickly, can be very difficult for a Terran to deal with. Some Ultralists or some Broodlords show up and you haven't been building for them. You've just been sitting on your M's all day, your Marines, your Mines, your Medevacs, and your Marauders. Well, then suddenly you can just get rolled over as a Terran. So it does look like Stephano going down the Roach route. I mean, this could just be a safety Roach one. You don't know. There's no way for him to know because he didn't get Overlord speed. So he doesn't know that this isn't Hellbats. So getting the Roach Warren is just a safety maneuver at the very least. A double Widow Mine drop coming into the main. It looks like the Medevac will go down. We'll have to see. Oh, he didn't target it. A bit of a mistake there out of Stephano, but it looks like HeroMarine. Well, yeah, that's a pretty big mistake. Getting that medevac would be very nice, considering he minimized damage. 2 workers were killed. That's nothing. On the other side, he'll see the push out with the Overlord. It will cost him the Overlord. But this is that early pressure. This forces units out, and we see the decision here. He's going for the roaches with the missile attacks. But this is that little bit of early pressure. It forces you to respond. He's got to get spore crawlers. He had to pull some drones away. He has to make some roaches and some lings. And that keeps the drone count relatively low. It's actually 41 SCVs to 36 drones. Of course, that's going to change very soon unless Stephano decides to go all in. But that's what HeroMarine has done. A very minimalist approach, which is the best way to do it as Terran. You don't want to be investing a lot in an early attack and then not have a follow-up because you've invested so much in that early punch. You just want to jab at them a little bit and then go for a knockout blow later on. We'll have to see exactly how HeroMarine wants to play it. A lot of the time, against a Roach Ravager player, you'll see a lot of drops because Roach Ravager doesn't move around. It doesn't really have any strong anti-air. Corrosive Bile is never going to hit a medevac, and Queens don't move around very quickly as well. So until Infestors are out, it's going to be almost impossible to really hunt down those medevacs. So as soon as HeroMarine realizes he's up against this roach-heavy composition, he should be moving around the map and exploiting the immobility of those roaches and keeping Stephano on his side of the map. Because if all the roaches and the Ravagers are together, they're very strong. But you also have to walk all the way across Cactus Valley in order to attack. And during that time, a double drop could come in, clear out your main. Attack at the third could hit when you're halfway across the map, and you just can't afford that as a Zerg, so you have to stay at home, and that's just how it is. Alright, HeroMarine taking the third. Now, the roaches are realized. They do not have speed yet. In fact, the lair isn't finishing yet. That's not a mistake. It's just a lot of Zerg players will delay the lair in favor of getting more queens and more drones early on. Because even if you do get roach speed very quick, the Terran player is probably going to have enough to defend. Where was that scan? He scans the third. Now, that's actually checking for the drone count there. He wants to see, do you have the gases? Have you built drones and transferred them? And he knows now, yes. So HeroMarine can focus less on being defensive and more on going on the offense. We should see either an attack or a load up of some medevacs very soon. He's got a Viking very smartly to remove the Overlords. So that way there's no vision, and these drops, he's going to have to react to the drops instead of be proactive in defending against them by having queens and stuff in position. He's setting himself up to do damage later on. So we now see Roach Ravager moving across the map. He sees the roach count. HeroMarine will face this head-on, especially until roach speed is done. He can't really touch these. You can't move off the creep until speed is done. It'll just be very sad. It's like watching cripples fight. So, while it might be entertaining for some, it's mostly just sad. So HeroMarine is moving down with a lot of army supply. 76. He's finished that 1-1. His armory is a little delayed, but the upgrades are even, and there is no roach speed. So we will actually move into fight. He's confident in taking this fight. I'm not sure he should be quite so confident as 1-1 is done. He's actually cutting through the roach. He knows exactly what fights he can take. The medevacs, the damage is just not dealt by these roaches very quickly, and HeroMarine is just targeting them down one by one. The firing squad continues, but it looks like the Marine counts have been thinned out enough so we can start targeting down medevacs. So HeroMarine, just a different tactic. One that you don't always see, but he decided to face it head-on. He took the trades while he could, because he knows once roach speed finishes, once the Ravager count gets too high, you can no longer heads-up engage. So he cut down the Ravager and the roach count. He removed a lot of the queen energy. So now a follow-up attack is going to do more damage, because he just decided, 1 for 1, I'll trade Marines for roaches and Ravagers because the timing will favor me as time goes on. Now, I don't know about this fight. He's cutting into the Ravagers, just juking around the Corrosive Bile. The tank in the back is going to be a casualty, and Stephano's Roach Ravager count is far too high. HeroMarine's going to have to back off, and it looks like he's going to have to take another angle to attack. Alright. Now, importantly, he still has 5-6 medevacs on the field. Has he started Liberators? Yes, he has. So once you get 6 or so medevacs, maybe, does he even have 8? 6 is a good number, because then you can do a double drop and still have enough to heal a strong army. If you don't have those medevacs, you can't afford a transition into Liberators, or maybe Vikings if you think there's going to be broods, but Liberators are very helpful in just forcing out Corrosive Bile and zoning certain areas so that way the Roach Ravager doesn't run you over. He just killed the Scantipede. You murderer. On the other side, though, Stephano, he's realized he can't really attack, but he's very accomplished at defending. He's got his hive done, he's finished that infestation pit. Any infestors out? No infestors yet. And he's opted to go for the Ultralists instead of trying to go for the Broodlords. Broodlords are a little bit better as an endgame unit, but they're in cross positions. And the amount of time it'll take for a Broodlord to move from one end of the map to the other is just too long. The Terran army can literally run circles around you with Medivacs and Stim Marines, so it's not worth it. So the Ultralists make a lot more sense, especially considering how much creep spread he has on the map right now. Broodlords, of course, do not benefit from creep spread, as it only benefits ground units. But there are no. This is a 2-2 push coming out. The upgrades are even. The Ultralists are not out yet. Chitinous Splitting is on the way, but this is just Roach Ravager. Oh, that tank line is disgusting. He cannot fight from that angle. And this is a great timing out of HeroMarine. Hive Tech has not kicked in yet. The Terran army is extremely cost-effective right now. This many Medivacs, even upgrades, some tanks in the back. Is Stephano going to give up the 4th base? It looks like this Liberator actually picked up a couple kills. He's just got to give it up. Another Liberator in the main will actually kill the Queen and get more damage done, so HeroMarine splitting up a handful of units and getting the damage. I don't know if he can end the game from here. We see the Roaches swing around the back. HeroMarine a little bit out of position. This flank might be enough. He takes out the rest of the tanks at the front. Stepping forward are the Marines. But is it going to be enough? We've got 5 Ultralists on the way. Ooh, the Corrosive Bow. Somehow he juked it out. It looks like HeroMarine's going to have to pick up and get out of there, but he's cutting the Roaches down. Takes a few parting shots before he dips out, and HeroMarine will maintain a strong supply. He killed the base, but Big Daddy's coming home. The Ultralisks are the real fear here. He has a single Liberator, he has some tanks, he's going to get +3, and the melee upgrades aren't really there, but he's going to have +3 Carapace. It's just going to be Ultralists, really. A handful of Roaches and Ravagers, but just Ultras, and they're still paperless. Okay, Chitin is finished. That +2 armor. The +2 armor makes these bio units that fire very quickly at relatively low damage. It severely reduces their damage against the Ultras. So having that armor is like night and day. Without it, you're nothing. With it, you're everything. As the Ultralists are cutting through, the drones actually joining the fray. I'm not entirely sure that's where they want to be. Some transfuses cutting down the distance in between these tanks and the Ultras. The Ultras will clean it up. But we got to ask ourselves the question, HeroMarine taking good trades, and at what cost was that army finished off? The Roach one was killed. Some more drones were killed. We're looking at 36. HeroMarine is just putting his boot on the neck of Stephano right now. The Ultralists trying to break out, but they're doing it at such a heavy price. And HeroMarine has never let Stephano move out on the map. He's just been defending, defending, and defending. But he can only keep his guard up for so long. Because now, 4 bases for HeroMarine. He's got 71 SCVs. He's got a massive economy. And the Ultralists are trying, but for every Marine and Marauder he kills, 2 more take its place. The Ultralists are good, but they still got a long ways to go to end this game. No infestors means he can't hold these Marines and Marauders in place with fungal growth. The lack of creep spread means the Ultras just cannot close the distance against those very mobile bio units. The medevac count has still been maintained throughout all of this, so he has the sustaining power in order to keep this army going, even when he keeps stimming back and forth. The Ultras literally can't touch him. Some infestors could make all the difference. He takes one big fight, he wipes an army, and maybe he can go across the map. Maybe he can rebuild those drones, but HeroMarine has not let that be the case. A couple Liberators. Now, he doesn't have any real answer. He's got a handful of Queens. He's got a single Ravager for anti-air, but that's nothing. Some Ultras are actually cutting off the reinforcements. He needs to make moves like this. He's going up the front. The Liberators tearing in to the Ultralists. He's trying to come in from 2 different angles, but absolutely everything melting under the Freedom Cannons. And it looks like HeroMarine has just ground his way from the very start up towards a victory. And that's a GG. That was a clean game out of HeroMarine there. That was a clinic on how to deal with that. And he comes back into the game to make sure he kills a little bit more. Can you talk about what Stephano could have done to not be contained so badly? Here's what I think Stephano should have done. Now, obviously, Stephano's a way better player than me. But I think the way to deal with that, because it was just a very push-heavy style, what you need to do, you need to slap one push away so hard he can't push again. He has to stop pushing. If you kill, you don't cut off the head because 2 more heads replace it. You need to just completely crush it. You need to choke it out. And by doing that, the way to do that is with Infestors and Fungal. I don't think going for Ultras was better than going for Infestors with Fungal. If you take one good fight with Ravagers, you take all the medevacs, so you wipe all the starport units off the board, then he has to reset. He has to rebuild medevacs, rebuild Liberators, and he has to wait. And in that time, you can get more bases, you can tech up, you can respread the creep, and you can maybe attack yourself as a Zerg player. I think the lack of Infestors allowed HeroMarine to keep doing what he wanted to do, which is just leaning on a massive economy and eventually just grinding everything down, because HeroMarine has very good micro. Like, if the only way to stop HeroMarine from microing is to hold him down and start punching him in the face. Otherwise, he's just going to juke and jive all over the place. So I think the lack of ability to kill the momentum, and I think the best way to do that would have been Infestors. So that is why HeroMarine ground through. So what did you guys think? I tried to be a little bit more basic instead of talking about exactly the details, just the general. All right. Where is